This is what the whole building was created for, the Shrine of the Three Kings. The story goes that the relics of the Magi, meaning their mortal remains, were in Constantinople but brought to Milan in 344 AD. Holy Roman Emperor Frederick Barbarossa stole the relics from Milan in 1164 and gave them to the Archbishop of Cologne. Shrine construction started in 11 AD, but finished in 1225. That's 45 years to make a triple-decker golden coffin. Remember the theme of extreme delays in connection with this cathedral. It will come up again. The box contains the remains of a young boy, a man, and an elderly man if eyewitness reports from July 20th, 1864 can be believed. Just to be clear, in my opinion, these are 3 random corpses that Barbarossa found. He was more conqueror than archaeologist.
We have Disney, Denmark has Tivoli, a very, very magical place. Started with this guy right here. How did he even invent this place back in the day? 1843.
He stole the idea actually from a park in Paris that was called Tivoli.
Really?
But none of the original parks exist. It's only the Copenhagen one that has managed to survive through to today.
How many rides are there?
Well, at the moment we have 26, half kiddie rides and half really wild white knuckle type rides.
Hundreds of years ago, the opportunity of a canal across the narrow country of Panama was identified. After a few earlier false starts, the Americans went down to Panama in 1903, signed a fairly dubious treaty granting them land, dammed up a river to make an artificial lake, dug a trench from that lake to the Pacific, dug a trench from that lake to the Atlantic, and $13 billion and 5,600 worker fatalities later, the canal was done. It officially opened the Pacific to the Atlantic on August 15, 1914, as the first commercial ship, the SS Ancon, sailed through.
The Wizard of Oz 3D made its world premiere at the grand opening of the new TLC Chinese Theater IMAX. The very site of the film's 1939 Hollywood premiere to celebrate the 75th anniversary collector's edition of the much-loved film.
Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
When Hirohito finally addressed his crippled nation, he did so via a pre-recorded phonograph broadcast. This was known as the Jewel Voice Broadcast, and it was the first time most Japanese had ever heard their emperor's voice. Hirohito spoke in stilted, formal language. He said, and I'm quoting, "The war situation has developed not necessarily to Japan's advantage, while the general trends of the world have all turned against her interest." That has to be one of the all-time great understatements. Japan was basically in ruins at this point. Hirohito went on to mention the enemy has begun to employ a new and most cruel bomb.
Delhi, Independence Day was also a day of rejoicing. Tumultuous crowds filled the streets, celebrating, singing and laughing. Police were called out many times to restore order, where everyone ran wild with joy. Outside the Constituent Assembly, crowds again broke through the police cordon. From the balcony of the building, Pandit Nehru, India's first premier, urges the crowd to let the procession move through. Earl Mountbatten's car was surrounded by thousands of wildly cheering people.
On August 15, 1965, the Beatles performed before a crowd of more than 55,000 ecstatic fans in New York City's Shea Stadium. That is a lot of screaming. The legendary performance was the first ever in a major U.S. stadium and is known as perhaps the most famous.
On August the 15th, 1977, at 10:16 local time, the radio telescope received a 72-second-long signal from space. The usual signals the radio telescope received were 1s and 2s, as this is just normal background radiation, but the signal itself read 6E QUJ5 and is predicted to have come from the direction of the Messier 55 cluster of stars in the constellation of Sagittarius, which are approximately 17,600 light years away, which sounds far away, because it is, but still within the galaxy. The message 6EQUJ5 doesn't really translate to an alien war declaration or, oh, I come in peace. It's just a readout of how powerful the signal was.
Zoologist Christopher Helgen holding a press conference today announcing the species, called an Alengito, the smallest member of the raccoon family in South America.
This animal, like so many animals in the rainforest, only comes out at night, doesn't come out of the trees. It's wet, it's dark, it's socked in with cloud. It's hard to find these animals.
The original discovery was 10 years ago in the form of fossils and skulls. Alengitos have since been found living and are predominantly in cloud forests in Colombia and Ecuador. Cousins of the Alingo, they are a smaller version with 4 new subspecies discovered as well. They are not considered endangered, the only threat to them being deforestation.